What's up, guys and gals? Welcome to the Nerd Castle for the first episode of Warhammer Quest, a game from my childhood in which you take control of a party of warriors as they crawl through a dungeon trying to find ever-increasing loot and fame. Warhammer Quest is a game from the mid-90s, and it's very much in the vein of board games from the late 80s and early 90s. It's kind of like Hero Quest with a couple of other different changes, but essentially it's Games Workshop's answer to Hero Quest, as I understand it. We used to play it when I was a kid, and it's a very good self-contained RPG, albeit a little bit backwards at this point. It has not aged well, and it's definitely going to be one of those games that will appear to be RNG-laden and very difficult, almost to a pointless sake for a lot of new gamers, because Warhammer Quest was designed to kill you in horrible ways. This is an iOS port, which is then a board game port, and it mirrors those decisions fairly well in that this game will still kill you over the course of like one turn if you're not careful. Even if you are careful, RNG exists in this game, and at any given time you basically have like a 50-50 to hit with any weapon, and so it's very possible to miss yourself to death in this game quickly and just resoundingly and painfully. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play some Warhammer Quest. I'll explain things along the way. I don't think I need to play the tutorial because I remember playing it when I was a kid. It's weird though because it didn't offer. We need to name our party. Our party will be the Shiggity Shankers. Alright, the Shiggity Shankers are away. Now there's three difficulties you need to be aware of. There's casual, there's adventurer, and there's hardcore. Casual has easy combat and your warriors cannot die. Adventurer has hard combat and your warriors cannot permanently die. Hardcore is as it was in the board game in the 90s, where it's difficult and your characters can be permanently killed, thus losing all of their loot, all of their XP, and having to restart from scratch at the beginning of the game. Hardcore I would not recommend for an LP. If you're playing on your own, I would totally go for hardcore if that's what you're into. If you want to have the true nostalgic experience of what Warhammer Quest was like, you need to play on hardcore. However, for an LP, I would not recommend it, because what happens in hardcore when your party dies, it means you have to restart, but you've already unlocked all the levels, which means you have to go back, you have to grind up your levels to get to the point where your characters will once again be combat efficient in the later levels. And so essentially what this means is that the LP will be over whenever we die, and in order to get it back up and running, there will be a lot of grinding. There will be a ton of grinding. Other things that may concern people about this game, there are a lot of microtransactions. I don't know what to tell you. It's a Games Workshop game. They're like one of the most evil companies ever in existence, and it's kind of sad how much people love Games Workshop, myself included. Like, I love everything that Games Workshop produces, but God, do they love to gouge their fan base. They are just brutal about it. This game is no exception. There's a load of microtransactions in it. None of them are mandatory, but some of them are like recommended, I guess. They're not mandatory, but some of them are for things like the default characters, and so they nickel and dime you. Be aware. It is an iOS port, so if that's going to bother you, I apologize. But anyways, it's Warhammer Quest. It's a game from my childhood, so I figured for nostalgia's sake, I would at least do a couple episodes of it. We'll have a good time. We'll stab some, orcs in the face and then be about our business. I don't know if we're going to do a full playthrough yet. I haven't decided, but we're going to go on adventure difficulty just so that if we lose, we can get back into the game and continue our campaign without having to restart from the beginning, because that can be like 10-15 hours worth of work to restart your game in this if you're really far in and everybody dies. It can be a pain. It can be a huge pain, so let's get going. There it is. I don't want to play the tutorial. I am uninterested. I understand how the game works, and so we shall fly through and see how it goes. I may have to consult the journal every now and again to get things straightened out, but by and large, I know what I'm doing here. All heroes die. Eventually and inevitably, method and character determine this land, not the march of time. Looting, indulging, mere distractions from what you crave, an idea above trinkets to last forever, a calling, and a legend. Alright, so welcome to Warhammer Quest. Every adventure starts somewhere. Yours begins with the promise of gold from a mad old farmer. He seems to think that the local spider population is amassing an army to rise up and eat his crops, and possibly him as well. I would actually put an emphasis on the back half of that sentence. The spider population more than likely not interested in your turnips. Never found a spider that sat around like, you know what I could go for right now? A turnip. Let me go ahead and weave this web real fast in the hopes that I might catch a migratory turnip. No, they are indeed looking for you. Your party find themselves standing at the entrance to an abandoned mine. Plow through these arachnids and we can go collect our reward. I like rewards. Let's ride. Alright, quest number 1, squashing bugs. Welcome to the party. This right here is how Warhammer Quest looked when I was a kid, pretty much. I mean, you had a modular game board, and you had characters. Each player, actually, this is a little bit different because we get to play all 4 characters. In the original board game, each person got to carry a character. We only had 2 people back when I used to play, so we would each take 2 characters. Typically, we'd both take a melee and a mage, or like a melee and a range, and then we just play our way through it. We can move this distance right here. And I think if we open up, let's have a look here. There's a number of menus we can go to, and there actually are a lot of stats in this game. I mean, it's one of those games that's highly simplified, but at the same time, there's a lot of stats that go into it. Our characters have a whole bunch of different things that they're good at. So you have movement, you have weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, melee attacks, ranged attacks, and pinning. Now, this right here is if the character is totally and completely leveled up. He does not have 4 melee attacks around. He does not have, 5 ranged attacks around. He barely has any of this stuff, so I'm not really sure why it represents it like that. Eventually, he will have these abilities, but for right now, this character card does not accurately reflect like what the character is doing. So your movement skill, basically how far you can move on a turn. I don't think that's accurate right there either. It should be like 4 or 5 for the Barbarian. We have Salskran Whiteblood, who is a Barbarian Marauder from the Chaos Lands. His weapon skill is 3, so when you attack an enemy, you make a weapon skill check, and you get like 5% chance to hit for the difference if yours is higher between your weapon skills. So as an example, if both combatants have a weapon skill of 3, it's a 50-50. If I have a weapon skill of 3 and my opponent has a weapon skill of 1, it's a 60% chance to hit. If I have a weapon skill of 7 and they have a weapon skill of 1, there's 6 weapon skill difference times 5, so I have an 80% chance to hit. So it's 5 times 6 plus the 50 baseline chance to attack. Ballistic skill works a little bit differently. You get like 15% chance baseline to hit every time you have a ballistic skill. So like a 3 ballistic skill would give you a 45% chance to hit most times. His will be very high later on. Toughness determines, you make a toughness check when certain things happen, and I don't really remember. It's been a while since I played the game, but the toughness kind of goes into both your wounds, and also you make toughness checks every now and again to see if you like resist damage getting through armor or something like that. Like armor will give you more toughness at times, and you make like a toughness check to see if you shrug it off or something like that. I don't remember. It's been a while. Melee attacks is just how many times you attack per round. Ranged attacks, exact same thing with ranged attacks. Pinning is the strength and your ability to keep things locked into combat. So this game doesn't use attacks of opportunity like other games do. This game uses a concept called pinning, which is a little bit different from what you might expect. Now the game controls very simply, and I would like to see some changes. So WASD does not move your map around. I'd like to see that change. You have to actually click and hold down, which leads to all kinds of misclicks occasionally, where you'll like click in here but you won't click enough and you'll accidentally move somebody. Luckily you do have to double click to move people around, so there it is. We have a Barbarian. We have ourselves a, I think he's called like a Way Watcher or something like that. Yeah, he's a Way Watcher. So essentially what he does, he guards the roads into the Elven Kingdom, and he shoots anybody that's unfriendly on their way in. We've got ourselves a, he's called a, what is he called? An Ironbreaker. What an Ironbreaker is in the Warhammer lore is an Ironbreaker is actually a position of honor in Dwarvish society. What the Ironbreaker does is the Ironbreaker's job is to stand in front of the miners while they dig and protect them from things that are coming in from deeper down in the shaft. So essentially they stand there with a giant shield and they block the entire mine shaft from monsters that are coming up to protect the miners while they dig. It's a position of honor. But anyways, I'll give you a little bit of Warhammer lore while we play through the game, since this is in the Warhammer IP. Since we're done with our turn right now, if we click off, we can actually go right here, and it's actually in your best interest to go in here. I'll try and explain things. There's a lot to learn in this first episode, and so I'll do my best. So now you might be wondering, what is Winds of Magic? At the beginning of every turn, wizards in this game will roll a d6. That's a 6-sided die. Whatever comes up is how much Winds of Magic they have for the next turn. Winds of Magic is basically your MP. It determines how much magic is currently in the dungeon floating through the air that you can channel. Some locations will give you bonuses or detractors from it and make your mage into basically a bad melee combatant. Other things will happen, but as of right now, you can see he comes with a number of spells, all the way up to the expensive Shadow Bolt. Healing Mist, very good thing. He's a Grey Wizard. There's a number of different chapters in Warhammer Fantasy of Wizards. There's Bright Wizards, there's Grey Wizards, and they all focus on different things. Grey Wizards focus on shadow magic and are largely distrusted by the main population. Bright Wizards focus on fire magic, and everybody's terrified of them because they like arson a lot. They set a lot of things on fire, and that's basically all that they do. But anyways, we're not here to talk about that right now. Let's play the game. This right here is a transfer zone. So in the board game, when you stepped on these, you would roll a dice, or you would consult the game manual, and you had to put down another modular piece. The game works identically in this. You step forward, and it generates a modular piece. And then what you would do is you would roll a dice, and you would consult the event manual to figure out what happened inside this room. And so in doing that, the game has determined that we will now fight 6 giant rats. And so there it is. So I'm going to step everybody forward for right now. You can attack on diagonals. You can move on diagonals. Essentially, the game works exactly how you would want it to. Everything functions the way you think it does with some minor explanation. So I'm going to start out with our barbarian here, and he's going to take a swing at this rat. Now let's compare some stats for just a second. Over here, you will see this little thing right here is how many attacks he gets per turn. This is his weapon skill. This is his ballistic skill, I think. This might be how many ballistic attacks he gets per turn. Let me look. Yeah, it's how many ballistic attacks he gets per turn, so keep that in mind. You may have to, like, this doesn't always accurately reflect what your character has, by the way. It's a little bit odd, and it updates sometimes based on, like, where things are at. His weapon skill, for example, his ballistic skill is definitely not an 8. That means he would be hitting every time no matter what. But anyways, he's got like a, let's take a shot right here. He's got like a 50-50 at this point. That's all that I can really tell you. His ballistic skill is like a 3 right now, but you won't be able to see it until, there's a lot of bugs in this game right now. There's a lot of like little UI things that need to be ironed out basically. I'm going to shoot at that rat, and we got him. And so we dealt 5 wounds, and the rat is now dead. When you kill a mob, you get a little bit of gold. Let's attack right here. There it is, and you'll see he triggered an ability called Death Blow. What Death Blow means is occasionally if you one-shot an enemy, so let's say you take an enemy down from full health to no health with one swing, you get a thing called Death Blow, which is a test that you get to make. Death Blow determines if you get to keep attacking, and so let's say if this character was surrounded, it's very, very possible to Death Blow, get another Death Blow, get another Death Blow, and just chain kill everything around you to death. The enemy gets these as well, though, so watch out. Like I said, this game could get very, very hazardous for your characters based on some of the random RNG. I've seen characters stand in the middle of a room and death blow 5 enemies all around them in a row. But it's RNG. Sometimes you make a death blow test, and if you pass it, you get to swing again. And if you one-shot the next enemy, you make another death blow test, one-shot the next enemy, and so on and so forth. Our Iron Breaker can move over to here, and I think I'm going to try and get him to one-shot some of these guys, assuming he doesn't miss. He does have a 50-50... No, never mind. He has a 55% chance to hit because he has 4 weapon skill and they have 3. So, still not the greatest chance. What you really want to do, though, is you want to lock these guys into combat. I was talking about pinning just a little bit ago. Pinning is essentially, it's like attacks of opportunity. So you know how in Dungeons & Dragons, once you're in combat, you're locked into combat and you can't leave it without suffering an attack of opportunity? This game is the exact same way, except you can't get out of combat at all without making a pinning test, which is made at the beginning of each turn. So these 3 are now locked into combat with me. Maybe this one isn't, but these 2 are definitely locked into combat. And so they have to make a pinning test. If they can't make the pinning test, they're stuck in combat with me, and they have no choice but to continue attacking this character or any character that's within range, but they cannot move. So just things to think about along the way. I'm going to try and pin this one real fast with the mage, even though this might be a bad idea. Oh, he one-shotted him. Nice job. The mage is actually not so bad at melee. You can use him in melee. It's just kind of like a risky proposition. Look at that grip on the sword. He needs to choke up on it a little bit. He needs to like he's holding it like down by the pommel. He needs to hold it up by the hilt or something. I don't know. I feel like he couldn't get a good grip on the sword right there. It'd kind of like have a weird, I don't know, off-balance thing going on. We can swap out all of these characters' gear once we get out of the dungeon, but for right now, that's the end of our turn, so let's go. Okay, so they have an ability called Death Leap. What Death Leap does is you get a guaranteed counterattack when they use Death Leap, which means that rats are a very, very weak character. They have an ability called Death Leap. I think it hits a little bit harder, but it allows you a counterattack. And so they use it every now and again. See how it said he was pinned right there? That's because he made a pinning check when I clicked on him to see if he could get out of melee. He couldn't get out of melee, but he defeated his enemy, so it's all good. Your characters get XP in this game based on the mobs that they kill, not on what they accomplish. So, for example, you only get experience for your kills, not for completing the dungeon. You will get a little bit of base XP for completing a quest, but by and large, getting your characters to level up, you kind of want to feed them kills as best as you can. Let's move everybody into the room. And we may want to take a turn right here. At the end of every turn, you have to consult the game manual and make a roll to see if anything happens, just like you would in any other tabletop game. So anytime I click this, there is a chance that a bunch of things will spawn on top of us, and we'll have to fight a battle in this room, or maybe a bunch of stuff will spawn over here and attack us from this hallway. The game can become a slog at times if you get a lot of bad rolls. So for example, I've had 4 turns in a row where it just keeps spawning more and more and more enemies just because we keep getting bad dice rolls. These dice rolls are also hidden from the player in this game, which I think is a mistake. I actually think that having a dice roll up here that actually showed you when dice are being rolled and when things are happening would be a wise decision, because for newer players not familiar with how things used to work back in the day, essentially the dice determined everything. That's back in the day, you didn't actually like have plans in RPGs. You would just kind of be like, I kind of want to do this, and then you would roll some dice and see if it happened or not. Now, wounds are serious. You see right here, we only took 1 hit from one of those mobs, but our health bar is fairly largely gone. Our health bar is this little thing around their feet right there, or you can see at the bottom left-hand corner. We've got bandages and stuff with us, but I'm about to show you why you always want to bring the Grey Wizard along. This is a fundamental rule of Warhammer Quest. You always bring the Grey Wizard because he's one of the only characters with a healing spell. Healing is a really, really big deal in this game. Like, seriously, it's expensive. It's hard to get your hands on. You rarely have all the items you want in order to heal. Having somebody that can just, like, heal whenever he has enough mana is an amazing, amazing thing. So always bring the Grey Wizard if you can help it. At least that's my plan most of the time. He's got 4 Winds of Magic right now. Okay, we're going to move into the next room. And we got an event. So we have spawned 5 spiders in the next corridor. And it looks like they've actually... Okay, so I don't actually... this is why I usually wait till I have full movement. Like, I'll stop right here and then I'll end a turn. From what we got right now, I'm going to step to right here. And we'll take a hack at him, but unfortunately we missed. So my next best chance is to get that one off the front. And we're going to miss right there too. Remember, our hit chance is only 50-50 at this point in the game. It will get better, but then again, so too will the weapon skill of our opponent. So honestly, even deep into the game, you can't rely on having much more than like a 60% chance to hit most of the time. The spiders in this game use a web attack that deals no damage on the first swing, but if you get attacked when you're webbed, you automatically take damage. So it's kind of like you get a freebie on the first hit because they're webbing you. But up until the... Oh, he went berserk. Okay, so the barbarian has a special skill called berserk. At the end of a turn, when he's surrounded by enemies, he makes a roll to check and see if he goes berserk. This berserk can either be a controlled rage or an uncontrolled rage. He just got an uncontrolled rage, which makes him attack everything in an AoE around him and then ends his turn so that he can't attack on the next turn. If he had got a controlled rage, it gives him a +1 attacks per turn, which means that he would have been able to double attack on this turn. So it can go either way, but since he's berserk, that's the end of his turn. He's webbed, which means that we can't take a swing over here, which means we're pretty much left using our archer to try and clear this problem out. So our archer has missed. We could attempt to use... We have 4 Winds of Magic right here. The problem being is that his skill Shadow Daggers hits everything in an arc in front of him, so it hits these 3 squares in front of him, including allies. So if I was to use this spell right here, it would actually hit our barbarian. So unfortunately I have to leave him behind a little bit, and we'll just wait till the next turn. Well, I guess I could put him right there and he could melee attack. I mean, he's not going to kill anything, but he might help out a little bit. There we go. So he missed quite resoundingly. It was like whoosh, 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 with an echo. And so let's end the turn. He didn't make his web check, so he didn't break out of the web. He's now webbed, which is problematic. And so you'll see he automatically takes damage after this. So with 3 Winds of Magic, what I need to do now is I need to try and get them out of here, but unfortunately we're probably going to miss ourselves to death at this point. Oh, we killed one of the spiders. Fantastic. This is one of those games where you get very, very excited about killing something because frankly it's very, very easy to miss like 10 turns in a row. Seriously, it happens all the time in this game. Let's end our turn. He unwebbed himself, so he made his unweb check. That's good because these ones are locked in combat. Unfortunately, our barbarian's looking a little bit the worse for wear, so we kind of need to dig him out right now. That's not going to happen, though, unfortunately, so I need to use Band-Aids on him. So he got 1 wound back from the Band-Aids. The Band-Aids are on a D3. You roll the dice, and whatever you get is what you get. If you roll a 1 through a 3... Why did I move him back to over there? That's not what I wanted. I wanted my archer to move up over here. There we go. Let's see if we can start kind of like weaving our way through here. And I don't mean any spider puns from right there. You will notice that your archer gets more XP than everybody because ballistic skill stacks better than melee skill. Okay, he unwebbed himself, but he got re-webbed. But that's nice because it cancels out that attack at least. Our entire front line just got webbed. That means we didn't take any damage on the plus side. On the downside, it means our entire front line won't get an attack on this turn, though. So I guess he takes what he gets. I'm going to bandage him one more time. We rolled a 3 on a D3, which means that he got 3 wounds. A bandage gives 1 through 3 health. That's all. It's like with everything else in this game, all RNG. He didn't make his web check, so he's going to take automatic damage from the spiders on this turn. So is he. They both didn't make their web check right there. On the plus side, our Winds of Magic, he rolled a 5, which means he can throw out some healing mist if he needs to. Let's see, he's got 8 health, he's got 6. Let's heal the dwarf. He got 1 wound. That's pretty much the worst roll you can get. It does like 1 to 6 wounds, I think. Hopefully our archer can get this done right here. Oh my god. Misfest. Come on. At least make your web check so we can do something right here. The spiders are actually doing something intelligent at the moment by webbing down our front line the entire time. Oh man. This is a bad misfest right here. It shouldn't be happening, honestly. By value of just like what should be happening inside of the game right now, this should not be occurring, but it is. Okay, he made his berserk check on that one, so he gets +1 attacks. We should be able to finish this off on this turn. There it is, and there's the double death blow right there. And so as you can see, all RNG, you can miss 5 turns in a row, and then on the turn after, make both rolls and the death blow roll and kill everything. So a lot of the time in this game, you shouldn't be upset about your tactical decisions. You only affect so much in this game. He got another healing mist. I'm going to throw that on. He got another 1 wound. We got bad luck with those healing mists. I'll tell you what. It'll go up to 6 most of the time. He got 0 winds of power on that one. So let's continue our way through the dungeon. I'm going to stop right in front of the door, kind of fishing for a little bit of extra winds of magic to maybe heal people up, because honestly we don't have a whole lot of like healing items left, and I don't want to go into the next room without healing more. There's 3 winds of magic right there. I'm going to bypass this turn as well. However, there is an added risk in doing this. Every single turn that we do this, something might spawn behind us, so watch out for that. However, given the risk versus the reward, there it is. I'd rather wait for us to get healed before we go into the next room. I'll give that to the Barbarian. The Barbarian just got 5 wounds right there, so that was a very, very good heal for us. Moving into the next room, we are in a room with 6 giant rats. Those are nowhere near as bad as the spiders, so I guess we'll... Let me see if I can get rid of this rat right here real fast. Okay, so that's what I was going for. He's still got to move. I want him to be right there in case he triggers his death blows. And let's start right here. Okay, so there's 1 death blow. He only procced 1 death blow, so he's not going to get 2. We'll try over here for another one, though. He didn't get his death blow, so unfortunately we're just going to have to live with that as a problem. But that leaves us with 2 rats in the room. We cleaved our way through this one pretty quickly. Let's continue. He's going to use Death Leap, which is going to proc an automatic counterattack by nature of the move that the rat is using. That rat is actually going to go straight for our archer, oddly enough. He's going to use Death Leap, and our archer is going to stab him. The archer is actually pretty good in melee combat, by the way. It's decent. We got a bunch of items so far. We got a bomb that we can throw at the enemy. We've got ourselves a Hellheart as well. The Hellheart is a special item for the Ogre Iron Gut. You have to actually have the character in your party to use that properly. So unfortunately, a lot of the time in this game, you're going to get gear that is not for anybody that's in your party. You can sell it later on and see if you can exchange it for things that will be useful. But once again, all RNG. What shops have? RNG. What drops? RNG. Whether or not you hit? RNG. It's all... Everything in this game is a dice roll, and the sooner you come to grips with that, ultimately, the happier you will be. 5 winds of magic right there. I would love to get our dwarf healed up a little bit. He keeps getting 1 wound, unfortunately. We've got a corridor right here, which hopefully will allow us a little bit of a better chance to heal everybody. Let's continue forward. We'll get behind right here. There it is. And onward we go. No event, which is a plus. I love not getting events. Events can be so bad in this game, or they can be so good. Sometimes you get like a guy that comes along who's like a priest of some god who heals everybody in your party, but usually it's bad. Usually it's something like acid falls from the ceiling, randomly lands on somebody's face, and they're like, oh god, now my face is gone and I can't see for the remainder of the journey. He's now blind and gets 0 attacks and has 0 weapon skill until the end of the dungeon. You'd be like, no! You'd be so upset about it. So upset. Next room. Maybe the old farmer wasn't as mad as you previously thought. Calling the spider horde an army might be a stretch, but he was right. There are a lot down here. From the looks of this room, it's only going to get worse. Great. So 5 spiders and 3 giant rats. What we want to do right now is see if maybe... If we can get into this room and we can pin them, I think we'll have a better chance of actually like succeeding. Usually what I try and do with spiders is block the gate right here so they can't run me. But if we get lucky... we might be able to deal a serious amount of damage right here and actually eliminate a lot of the spiders, but it's going to come down to luck, so hold them dice. There it is, a death blow with another death blow. We managed to get rid of a lot of the spiders on that first turn, which is going to allow us the privilege of getting into the room to start the fight. Oh, even the mage got some. Get some, my bearded buddy. Get some. Well done, my finger-wiggling friend. My finger-wiggling friend, you are the dude right now. I'm going to get you a little plaque with a wiggling finger on it. It's kind of like those singing bass plaques, but it's going to have fingers that go back and forth and be like, don't worry, get magey. And so all of your characters in this game do have decent melee combat abilities. They're not like incredible, but they don't suck quite as bad as you would expect them to as a level 1 character in like D&D, for example. I think this is the last room in the dungeon. I think we're done after we get done right here. And so he's going to do us a favor. We're going to allow ourselves to get a counterattack right there. We have completed the dungeon, I think. We've got a ruined book. It's just vendor fodder. It's not worth anything. You are victorious. And so now it's going to do our XP pool, and as you can see right here, it is going to tabulate everybody that you killed, with our Barbarian taking the lion's share of the XP. Now after this dungeon, I'm actually going to pick the party that we're going to play with, because I like the Wayfarer, the Waywatcher, but I actually like the Shadow Warrior better if I'm going to bring an Archer. There's a lot of imbalance issues in this game. Certain characters are definitely better than others, and some characters are actually bugged right now, or if you put them in your party, your game will crash. So I don't know if that'll be fixed by the time this goes live on the 6th. I'm filming this on like the 4th, so whatever. Well done. You've made it out of your first dungeon in one piece, more or less. Now, let's go to the nearest settlement of Siegfriedhof to spend your hard-fought earnings. click on a settlement, then press the travel button on the settlement card to move there. And so now we got 50 gold for completing the quest. We completed squashing bugs. And so what we'll do is our party is right here, and we move around an overmap to the different quests that we want to do. And so in going to Siegfriedhof, we just go travel, and we'll be off on our way. You do have a chance to run into dungeons and have events while walking around, so be aware of that. The game does have these charming little animations that it brings in every now and again to try to like draw you into the experience of the tabletop gaming world. Sometimes I feel like tabletop gaming is not as immersive as it used to be when I was a kid. I don't know. Because we didn't have video games back then that had graphical capacity to represent things like they do now. For right now, like, for example, Dragon Age Inquisition is like one of those things that would have just blown our minds in 1991 as little kids playing tabletop games like this right here. You cannot fathom, like, how nice of a world that game is put together. And yet back in the day, there was something charming about sitting in a room with, like, a dim lantern or, like, out in a tent in your backyard playing this sort of game. It was just fun. And so here, you can sell and buy loot in settlements, level up heroes, and all manner of other activities. Select a warrior in the central carousel, then use the location buttons in the middle pane to send them off to town. This is basic tutorial stuff. It appears someone wishes to speak to you first. As the adventurers approach Siegfriedhof, they spy a lonesome figure sat upon the 2-league waystone to the town. Your party is wisely cautious. The man sees you coming but doesn't seem to care. But did he make eye contact? That's the awkward part. Closer inspection reveals him to be wearing the garb of a minstrel. I suppose you're gonna rob me, he says with a dour expression on his face. Not having much use for a beaten up instrument or his rags, you ignore the minstrel and move on towards Siegfriedhof. That sort of entails that we actually allowed the option to mug him. We allowed it to take root in our mind. Then again, the world of Warhammer is a very, very rough place. Not thieves then, he shouts after you, but I bet you like riches all the same. Did he say riches? Your party pauses. Ah, that's got your attention. He jumps off the waystone and smiles for the first time. I know where there's a hoard, you see. A pile of golden jewels stolen by bandits. The same bandits that stole my loot. Not this old thing, but an instrument of pure beauty, encased in silver and inscribed in a most wondrous fashion. So, I'll guide you to the dungeon. You clear out all the creatures and keep the treasure, but the loot is mine. Meet me outside Siegfriedhof when you're ready. Okay, and so we get a quest, the Miserable Minstrel. I don't remember if that was in the original game. It's been a long time. I seem to remember something like that being in the original game. But anyways, this is where we're at. We can actually pan and scan through all the characters. I wish the Warrior Priest was better because I've talked about this, but Warrior Priests are one of my favorite things in any universe, in any lore ever. I really, really like Warrior Priests. So let's go to the Adventurers Guild, and let's talk about the adventurers that we have. Most of these are DLC unlocks that they just gave me because my press key unlocked everything. I believe the ones that you start with are this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And then everything else costs like... Actually, we can look. Let's go and... If we go to... Let's see here. Maybe this right here. No, that's not it. We can buy new characters around here somewhere. There it is. Additional content. All of the characters are $3, so they are actually kind of expensive, but all the characters play very, very differently. I don't know if that makes the $3 better for you, but yeah, it's definitely like an item grab right here. I got all these by nature of the fact that the devs sent me the game, but if I had to pay an extra 20 bucks to unlock all the characters and to unlock the extra dungeon packs, I'd probably be a little bit frustrated. The dungeon packs I think are actually worth the $3 because they actually unlock new tile sets and new enemies. Whereas this right here are just like overpowered weapons that you can use in the dungeons to like beat the game way easier, or to play catch up if your party dies. This right here, the region and enemy packs, I don't know about these ones. I don't actually remember these being unlocked the last time I played, but I assume that they actually have extra stuff, so I don't know. They unlock all kinds of stuff. It's weird. The game's not even out yet, and it already has like expansions and DLCs, which I know is a big no-no for a lot of people, myself included. So I did want to show that, but bear in mind this is a phone game, so the transactions make sense based on that. But I would have actually recommended they charge more for the game, like, I don't know, like $19.99 or something, and just give you everything. Now, people would have complained about the price for what they were getting no matter what you do, but at the same time, PC gamers don't like to be nickeled and dimed, so I think it might just be a little bit of a confusion between the developments, the iOS development and the PC, but either way, you're going to be paying a lot of money in DLCs in this game if you want to unlock everything that makes the game better, so, you know, as a person showing you the game, I have to be honest about that when giving it coverage. I have to show you that, otherwise I'm being disingenuous, so if you don't like DLCs and microtransactions, this will not be the game for you. However, each character is a little bit different. They do play quite differently. and the DLC packs do unlock new tile sets and new enemies, just like buying the expansion sets for the board game. And there used to be little box expansion sets for this board game too, so I don't know if they're doing it to be like the board game or they're just trying to nickel and dime you for more money, but in either case, there it is. In the next round, we will end the episode right here. In the next episode, what we'll do is we'll make our party, we'll go out and do another dungeon, and hopefully we'll be able to get 2 dungeons in on the next one. There's been a lot of explanation in this one, so I'm hoping we'll be able to do another dungeon. I will see you all in the next episode. Take care out there, everybody, and hi-do.